Welcome to another Coffee with Samso, where we speak with ASX companies and their leaders on the stories and what they're passionate about with the projects. We're here today at the UWA Club here in Crawley at the University of Western Australia. I've got Indiana Resources here today. Bronwyn Barnes is going to be sharing with us. Bronwyn and I spoke in May this year. And she's going to give us a good update on how things have been happening. Lots have been happening, and Bronwyn, a bit far away.
Great to be back with you again.
Yeah.
Having a cup of tea.
Having a cup of tea instead of coffee.
No, I think it's tea with Bronwyn, coffee with Samso.
Yeah. You're never coming back again. You're too demanding.
No, look, we've had a really busy couple of months since I last spoke with you. And what makes me happy about that is I think the last time we spoke, the things I told you I was going to do, I did. So that always makes me happy. So look, I think today, I can probably run you through the three different parts of Indiana, what we've been working on over the past couple of months. Obviously one from a corporate perspective. I think then what about if we have a chat about what we've been doing in South Australia, and we can bring you up to speed with what's been happening there. And then why don't we finish on Tanzania, and I can give you an update on how we're going with arbitration against the government of Tanzania.
Sounds good to me. Great,
okay. I think last time we spoke, I think I've roughly had about $1 million in the bank. Yeah. And you knew that I was spending that on exploration activity in South Australia, and we'd done some work over there. I think we talked about that we had a number of listed options that were due to expire on the 5th of August. Well, I'm pleased to say that they did expire on the 5th of August, and we had a 96% conversion rate from those listed options. So that's brought the company in roughly another, sort of $3 million. So in terms of a bank balance, I'm really pleased that we've managed to get ourselves a bank balance that's been non-dilutive to shareholders. That's given me enough cash to really focus on exploration activities in South Australia for the remainder of this year without the need to go back to market. So I think that's been a great outcome for shareholders, and really looking forward to being able to progress towards the end of this year now with real certainty about our financial position. I think last time we spoke, we talked about the recently completed RC drill program at where we did 1,600 metres for around 16 odd holes. Look, we've just had those results obviously come into market in late July, and another set of cracking results for us at that really built on that first set of results. So look, we got another 21 metres at 8.43. And once again, relatively close to surface. So, that's in sort of the 150 metre zone. We had another 23 metres at 6.44, and then we had another 10 metres at 8.5. So look, that's, we've got to look at that project as a whole now. How much work have we done? Well, not much. We've only started exploration up there in January of this year. So that's only around probably 3,200 metres of RC drilling that we've done there. We have completed around 4,500 metres of air core drilling. Those results are still pending. Hopefully we'll have those into the market in the next week or so. But then we're still waiting on the results of our diamond holes that we did, which I think last time we spoke I told you that in our first program we'd completed some RC holes and left them available to do diamond tails. So that's the 3 diamond tails that we've put in there for about 600 metres. So look, that core is currently being logged and cut. So it'll probably be another couple of weeks before we have those diamond results into the market as well. But look, that's, for me, this has been a really solid start to the year for us. We've done a lot of exploration in the first half of the year on not much money, so we're very good at husbanding our cash. Now that we've got an expanded cash position, the team are currently working on an accelerated exploration program really for the remainder of the year. So that'll look at not only but as we're sort of working through our heritage approval processes, we're looking to expand out from the project. So, you know, Indiana's got an extensive ground position in South Australia, as you know, just on 5,000 square kilometres. And that Minos section that we've been working is really only about sort of 3 kilometres long out of a potential 30 kilometre strike zone in the Lake Labyrinth shear zone. So the northern parts of that Lake Labyrinth shear zone we haven't been able to access yet because we're still working through heritage approvals. And likewise the southern part as well. So in the background we are working through that native title and heritage piece, and we're very confident that we'll be able to expand our land access sort of footprint in the second half of this year.
I mean, the Gawler Craton, that where you guys are, has always been, I mean, one of the attraction I had for you guys was the fact that you're in the Gawler Craton, and we touched on this previously, talking about why to me it's like a blank canvas for the likes of yourself, right? Yeah. Because there's so much potential that hasn't been touched, and I think we mentioned there was almost 2 decades of no one doing real work there, yeah, which is now what you guys are progressing. And when you guys are interpreting all your results and looking at the geology, and I'm pretty sure that's what you guys will be doing, are you getting that feeling that you are somewhere where you can actually draw your own canvas? Absolutely.
Yeah, look, I think, I very much compare it to, the Northern Goldfields, Kalgoorlie and the Northern Goldfields. And if somebody came to you today and said, I can give you 5,000 square kilometres of ground situated between Kalgoorlie and Leonora, that's had incredibly limited drilling, where you've got a number of prospects that have got walk-up drill targets, because we do have, not only Minos where we're currently drilling, but we've got other prospects there that have had historic drilling, like Boomerang, Double Dutch, Area Dam, Mulcra, Ariadne, Partridge. These are all tenements that have had some drilling on it, where they've had historically good results, like really solid results of plus, 10 grams, but people have done 1 or 2 or 3 holes and then walked away. I don't think they walked away because they were not encouraged by what they found. I thought they walked away for a number of reasons that had to do with the price of gold at the time, had to do with the lack of available funds, because we all know that things might be great now, but 4 years ago and 3 years ago the market was really tight. No one was really raising money to do significant gold drilling, and particularly in areas like the Gawler Craton that hadn't seen a lot of activity for the past 15 odd years.
Yeah, I think in summary to that is probably the fact that the capital wasn't encouraging anyone to go there, and you went there at your own expense in some ways, yeah, right? And I think, that Challenger, and you draw a circle around it, closest deposit is about 180 kilometres away. Yeah. Like you say, it's like having a piece of land in Kalgoorlie. Correct. Nothing's found after Menzies, or almost way past Menzies, right? Menzies is about 100 k's away. But, in terms of you guys going forward, you're going to do the drilling. Yep. Do you guys see, obviously we all know Gawler is a bit, how should I put it? It's remote and it's been historically hard to get at. What's your thoughts on that kind of aspect going forward now?
Look, I think for us, we've found it really quite easy to access. We've got great relationships with the local pastoral lease holder. We use all the shearers' accommodation. For us, it's less than a full day's drive, so it's about a 6-hour drive to get up there from Adelaide. Most of that's on a sealed road. This is pretty. I've spent the last 10 years working in Africa, where you don't have a lot of infrastructure at all. So I think, from that sort of access logistics perspective, it's great. We've got assays can be delivered to the lab inside the day. In South Australia, so compared to what we used to do in other places, that's pretty remarkable. The way that we've also set this project up, and I guess the people support around the project is, also in light of COVID, is, we've got an exploration manager who's actually based in Adelaide. So we've got somebody there that's not going to be constrained by borders going up and down. We've got a whole team of support people in South Australia that do this work. I'm not reliant upon people flying in and out of WA to do it. I think that we've designed that specifically around, the current environment, and that's the way that we're going to continue to work.
Yeah, I think going forward, I think I like Gawler for many, many reasons. You got big elephant deposits to your north, where Olympic Dam is, and pretty much nothing else to the west of that.
No, that's right.
And I think there's lots of opportunities to come up. The other part, like you said, this is a three-pronged conversation. Is Tanzania that's a whirl away, but it's actually very promising. Maybe you can share something on that.
Yeah, look, I think last time we spoke, I ran through our arbitration with the government of Tanzania over their expropriation of our advanced nickel sulphide project there, Nataka Hill, which had been the flagship asset of the company for a very long time. The company has been the major shareholder and manager of Nataka Hill for more than 18 years. Historically, we'd spent more than $60 million US on it, and it was a very advanced asset that was very close to going into some kind of a development scenario. When the Tanzanian government expropriated the asset in 2017 through changing the legislation and actually removing our licence, we spent a couple of years trying to negotiate with the government to have the asset returned. But when they advertised it for sale in December 2019, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to be able to get it back. So, look, arbitration with the government has progressed incredibly well. We are undertaking the arbitration through the World Bank, so it's a recognised forum, and it is under International Centre for Settlement of Investment Dispute guidelines. We are being represented by a top arbitration firm based out of Geneva and London, a firm called Litigation. They're a specialist firm in international arbitration for investors against sovereign states. We've got litigation funding to support all of our arbitration work. So in mid-2020, I secured a US $4.65 million litigation funding facility that covers all of our costs associated with arbitration. So that's been fully de-risked for shareholders. We've started arbitration through the World Bank. We had our first hearing on the 24th of April of this year. We've lodged only about a fortnight ago or 10 days ago our full memorial document, which is like a full statement of claim. So look, that was about a 400-page document that included all of the background to our investment, a full independent quantum expert witness report that valued our claim, and the value of the claim has landed at around $126 million Australian, so this is a significant sum that we're pursuing. And of course we've included all of our witness statements, all of our forensic auditing and accounting work, and all of the background information, in relation to the value of the asset. So look, Tanzania now has until the 23rd of December of this year to respond. And it is a defined process that we're working through with the World Bank on this, and it's a confirmed timeline. So, no one can move the drop dead dates, if you like. They're the dates that have been set in stone by the arbitral panel that's been appointed by the World Bank to oversee the process. So look, I'm really comfortable with where we're at. I think we've well prepared for it. And I think we've got an incredibly strong case, and now it's just a process of working through the process,
For the layperson out there, what happens if they don't turn up on that date? So there obviously must be a process that follows that.
Look, essentially the process rides on. So if you don't appear or you don't respond, well, the arbitral panel can only consider the information that's been presented to it. So it won't wait for Tanzania. There is no extension of time here. There's no the dog ate my homework type response to this sort of stuff. You either rock up prepared or the process rolls straight over the top of you.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, it's a really interesting process, and I think that we're starting to see a number of entities in Australia who are going through similar processes. Obviously Sundance, is now going through a very, very similar process. And I think that where, Australian companies have invested in offshore assets that have then been compromised or confiscated or some other thing has happened to them through no fault of their own, but through the actions of a foreign host government, I think people are starting to realise that you do have options and you do have protections for shareholders in these sorts of situations. I think it's a fascinating part of our industry that probably not a lot of people understand. And I'm really happy to share my story around what's happening in Tanzania because A, I've found it fascinating, but B, I think it does offer investors into these sovereign states more security and confidence around investing offshore in probably second and third tier jurisdictions that, there is always this sort of underlying wariness in the market. Well, hang on, we might actually have some protections here. So I think the more that the industry generally understands about that side of what goes on in investing overseas, I think can only be a good thing.
It's actually, eye-opening in the sense that, what you're saying, what you just said there is that, people have really thought, oh, they're going to this place, oh, gee, sovereign issues.
Yes.
What happens if that happens? And then you walk away from that decision.
Yeah.
Whereas what this is now turning out to be 126 million, even with a settlement amount, it's a substantial amount of non-dilution and capital raising in some ways.
I reckon I could do a great job at exploring in South Australia with that sort of money.
Yeah, but it's kind of the point is that there is protection out there.
And look, yeah, absolutely. But I think it also comes back to understanding when you're doing your original investment and going into these overseas jurisdictions that you're setting up the right mechanism to invest. So, the reason that we're afforded this protection through the World Bank is that we structured the investment through a UK subsidiary, which meant that we could take advantage of the UK-Tanzania bilateral trade and investment treaty. Now, Australia doesn't have a bilateral trade and investment treaty with Tanzania. So if we had invested directly through an Australian subsidiary that owned a Tanzanian subsidiary, well, we would not have been afforded the opportunity to go to the World Bank. So this structuring and this corporate nous around how do you structure your investments into overseas jurisdictions to make sure that if something does go wrong that you have an element of protection, I think is incredibly important. And when you consider the number of ASX listed companies that are investing in overseas jurisdictions, I think as shareholders we should be asking the questions of management. Have those investments been structured in case we have some element of protection if things go wrong? I think they're really important questions to ask up front.
Yeah, I think that's very important also from an investor point of view. When they are faced with an investment decision with a company, they should look at how things are structured and they can then leverage their risk accordingly to how that the structure or if a structure exists in the process. You've talked to lots of people in the marketplace over the time. What's their reaction to, say, that the claim? What are people saying to you?
Look, I think the first reaction is, a lot of people think I might be a bit Don Quixote-esque, and tilting at windmills with my, with my sabre and a horse. And I think a lot of the feedback is, oh, that's great, you could have a positive decision through the World Bank and you'll never get the money out of Tanzania. And I absolutely take that on board, and that was one of the first questions that the board considered when we went down the path of, is this an activity that we should pursue? And I think what gave us the confidence to continue was under the World Bank guidelines for arbitration, if you have a successful award that's handed down by an arbitral panel where a foreign government has to, give you a settlement sum, if the government fails to give you that money or fails to deliver on the compensatory award, then you are able to go through a process to seize the assets of that government in any of the countries that are a signatory to the World Bank. So, when people sort of realise, oh, hang on, this is an award that actually has teeth, so that's when people sort of go, oh, hang on, so what you've got is a claim for $126 million. You've de-risked it by having litigation funding. So none of my current monies in Indiana are being spent on arbitration because that's covered by litigation funding. And if you have a successful award and the Tanzanians don't pay you, you can actually pursue them and actually recover that money through a defined mechanism. It's like, oh, hang on, you've actually got something here. And it's like, well, yeah, I do. And that's why the board decided that we would go down this path, is because we could see that it was going to be a process that would deliver value in terms of an activity, that it didn't compromise, current shareholder funds and current shareholder, direction around a focus on exploration in South Australia, and that if there was an award, that we had a mechanism to actually get it. So it's like, okay, well, we've ticked those 3 boxes. That's an activity as a company that we should pursue.
The image that comes to my mind as you're talking is the image in Lord of the Rings where the guy says, no man can kill me. And the female princess pulls the helmet off and says, not a man. But it's one of those things that people, that when we first talked about it, and I think you were at the booth in RIU in Sydney, you explained to me, I thought, oh, geez, that's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's good as a project in a sense. I mean, it's not something that you plan for, but if you've got it, it's very promising. I think it's.
Look, I think we have to look at it as it is an asset, for the company. What is the value of the asset? I can't actually tell you. But what I can say is that shareholders in Indiana have a free option. And, it's like, if I went to the racetrack, because you all know I love racing and having a bet, if somebody handed me a free $5 bet...
Yeah, you'll take it.
I'd take it.
I will take it.
And then I'd stand at the finishing line and watch the horse.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, worst case scenario, best case scenario, you're still going to walk away with something. If there was a poor settlement or a good settlement, right? You're still going to...
Well, look, and what's my worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is I'm not successful. Well, what happens then? Nothing. I don't actually have to repay the litigation funding. So we all walk away and we go, okay, so I spent 2 years of time working on the case and getting organised. Well, I look at it and go, that's a good use of shareholder funds, because you've got to have a crack. And I think that the odds are pretty good for us. I think we've got an incredibly strong case. It's incredibly clear that the government changed the mining code specifically to remove retention licences from holders. So this was not, we didn't default, we didn't not pay. It was nothing to do with inaction or inactivity on our part. And we lost an asset that was a significant asset of value that had a significant amount of money spent on it. We can't just go around ripping people's assets off them.
No, you can't, especially when you've got something like that tight there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, guys, I mean, it's an interesting investment in Indiana. It's more about trying to get in now when things are relatively cheap. But if this comes off, there's a big prize, right?
Look, and I don't know what the size of that prize is, and I don't know, like, the defined timeline for arbitration is due to finish in the middle of 2023. So there's still water to go under the bridge here, but I know that there's a definite endpoint, and that's the definite endpoint. What I want to focus on as an entity at the moment is our exploration activity in South Australia. I think we are an exploration company. We're not an arbitration/litigation/ we're a junior explorer, and our job is to explore and to create value for shareholders. I think that the ground package that we've put together in South Australia is not only large, but it's incredibly strategic. So, we're located between Tarcoola and Tunkilia. We are located in that sort of central Gawler range, central Gawler Craton position with great neighbours. We've got Barton Gold immediately to our north. To the west, we've got Vale. Further north, up around Challenger, is the Marmota ground. So you've got 4 companies who, in that sort of region of about 15 to 20,000 square kilometres of ground, who dominate the region and who are all actively working. So I think that, and we've got a good relationship with our neighbours. Barton Gold, we've got an incredibly good relationship with them, and we share information and resources and things, regularly, and I think that's a great way of working, and we're going to continue to work like that. But, with 5,000 square k's of ground, and we know that we've actively exploring 6 kilometres of it.
It's hard to conceptualise, right?
I know. This is literally my pimple on the pumpkin.
I wouldn't use that expression, but it is. When I had that similar experience when I was working with Ashton Mining in the early 90s now, I remember. And when you look at a tenement map, you go, oh yeah, well that's big. But when you're standing on the ground and you realise you're not even a dot on that map, and everything around you is unexplored. Underexplored. You sort of wonder.
I'm spoilt for choice.
Yeah.
We're spoilt for choice at the moment about where to go next, and a lot of that will be driven by land access, so making sure that we've got good relationships with the native title groups, that we actually work properly through the heritage process, that we get the right, approvals in place before we do, land access and before we do activities on the ground. And but look, there's a number of prospects there that are walk-up drill targets. So hopefully between now and December, we're going to see more news flow from other prospects within our tenement package, not just Minos, but at Minos we're still focused on delivering a resource by the end of the calendar year as well. So there will be a resource coming out for that.
I think everyone needs to understand that where Indiana's working is they actually have strong potential to find actually something called supergene resource, whereas I don't think that word's quite available in the goldfields these days.
Yeah.
They're pretty much taken out, but that's still a plentiful in that area. And then there's the primary stuff after that, right? So I think that's where I'm trying to get that picture across to people, is that where you've got here is probably 20, 30 years, maybe even 40 years in the goldfields, where things were, well, not say easy, but you can capture most type of resources, whereas a lot of people now are chasing sort of primary stuff, and they're still good. I'm not saying that they're bad, but I think in the Gawler you're just sport for choice,
and it's very early days.
So
we've got a lot of opportunity here to make, I think, multiple discoveries in different zones.
Okay, look, Bronwyn, thanks for coming and sharing. I think it's always good. It's my sort of my favourite place now is the Gawler. It's really somewhere where 20 years ago you walked in there blind Freddy, you got a good chance, right? But Bronwyn, thanks for sharing, and we'll hopefully get more results from upcoming. We'll have another chat.
Good to talk to you again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.